The president's critics are still looking for the release of his tax returns. Americans protesting at nearly 150 anti-Trump tax return rallies across the country on Saturday. In major cities, including Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., at least 20 people were arrested in Berkeley, California. The president tweeted in response saying this. This is his tweet from yesterday. Someone should look into who is paying for the small organized rallies yesterday. The election is over. Joining us right now is former presidential candidate and Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. Great to be with you, and hope you had a great weekend.
And to you, happy Easter to you, Governor. You know, for me, I feel like more people care about their own tax returns than Donald Trump's tax returns. You know, the tax returns were a hot topic on the campaign trail. But what do you make of these protests now when everyone's just trying to understand better the tax agenda coming out of this administration?
Well, this is so absurd because, first of all, they can get more information about Donald Trump's finances if they look at his statement of financial interest, which he's required by law to file, and he did, both as a candidate and as a president. They're not going to understand Donald Trump's tax returns. Heck, Donald Trump doesn't understand his tax returns. He's got hundreds of LLCs all over the place, major corporations. It's probably several feet high. Look, nobody understands the 77,000-page tax code. It's one of the reasons that it needs to be scrapped. So even if he released it, all they're going to have is a hernia from lifting it off the table.
Governor Huckabee,
crazy.
I think you're bringing up a great point, and I was surprised to see these marches happen just due to the fact that when MSNBC came out with his 2005 tax returns, it showed he paid over 25%. That was more than Bernie Sanders has paid, and as well as some of their demagogues that they've put up.
49% of Americans pay zero.
It's unbelievable. So, I mean, do you think this narrative is just going to slowly die out about the tax returns, given the fact that he's paid his fair share?
I think it's really died out already, but some people just can't leave the funeral. This is a group of people that are basically small, but what I say is that very large sucking sound is the sound of a collective yawn of about 300 million Americans who just don't care about Donald Trump's tax returns. What Maria said earlier, that's exactly right. They care about their tax returns, and they care that there's not a whole lot of income to show in many cases for working class Americans. And, you know, people who are at the top, they're just looking to make sure that they don't pay as much as Donald Trump paid back in 2005 when someone leaked those tax returns. Because, you know, if anything, the reason I think he wants to keep them private is because he didn't want everybody to know what a chump I am. I paid a whole lot more taxes than a socialist named Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Governor, is this an opportunity for the president to go out and sell his tax plan a little bit? We saw him pivot to health care again, but it seems to me this might be a chance to come out and say, here's what we want to do on taxes, and we want to make the tax situation better for everybody in this country, not just for people like me.
I think that's a very good point, and I hope he does it. I was frankly hoping that he would do the tax reform right off the bat, right after the inauguration. He could have had the votes in the House and the Senate for the reduction of the corporate tax rate down to 15%. He would have been able to explain, because people said, what about the middle class? Well, the middle class benefits from a corporate tax lower simply because corporations don't ultimately pay taxes. They pass the cost of the taxes on to the end user, the consumer.
Right.
So if a corporation has lower taxes, grocery prices are lower, gasoline prices are lower, clothing is lower.
But Governor, he's
everything
not doing
people
that.
buy.
Were you surprised in my interview this week with the president that he said, oh, I have to do health care first? We all knew that he wants to get health care done, but to hear him say specifically that they're still knee-deep in the health care argument or battle, and they're not doing tax reform until after, it just makes you feel like tax reform is being held hostage to health care, and it's not what the voter wants.
Yeah, I heard him say that as well, and I don't agree with the president on that. And I think that he has been convinced by some people around him that he has to do the health care because there are tax pieces in it. But he can independently do the tax reform, because one of the things that a significant cut in the tax will do is to open up markets for job creation. It brings foreign investment into this country. Can you imagine what happens when countries and businesses all over the globe know that they can come to America for a 15% tax rate?
Right.
We've chased capital out of the U.S. Why not suck it back in, which we would do.
Governor, and that speaks to the repatriation money. Some say $3 trillion. In your interview, Maria, he said as high estimates as high. President Trump said $4 or $5 trillion coming back overseas.
You're absolutely right.
And what's the impact on markets and small businesses and all that money coming back from overseas?
Well, that I think he's going to do. I mean, he's going to get to repatriation move to encourage companies to bring that money back, and he's going to get to a tax cut if he can't get to a tax reform package. Don't you think, Governor? Because he recognizes the importance of this.
Yeah.
Well, I think he does, and you know, he's got the votes, and he needs to do it now. He's got the House, he's got the Senate, and he's got the White House. He knows he's going to sign a bill that lowers taxes, and if the Senate and the House can't get this done, they all need to be thrown out.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this is not complicated. This is not the heavy lifting that the health care bill is, that is so complex and has so many moving parts and so many complications because of Obamacare. This is a simple transaction of saying, here's the tax rate now, here's what we're going to make it to be.